Okay, I think I'm back. Can you guys? Yeah, sweet. Okay, sorry about all that. My computer blue screened. And that was unfortunate. So, okay. So sorry about that. But I guess it was perfect timing because yeah, my computer got blue balls. Um, kind of perfect timing because we got it right at the end of that AMA with that Discord, so that's kind of perfect. I let my cat in here, but like he just straight up causes a ruckus all the time. 1 second. It's like knocking shit over. All right. Marry you. You want married? What if we just go on a date first? Can we do that first? Is that possible? Joe, where do you get the Cthulhu live background? Just curious. Oh, wait, the picture in the background or like the music? Can I say hi to your mom? She loves you. Hello, Mom. What's poppin'? Lila, you coming to take Pradeep? You can have him, man. Especially if you could come take him during streams, that would be great. Cause he just meanders around, and like if he's just slaying down, it's fine. But like a lot of the times he meanders around and like tries to knock. Like it's like he doesn't act like this at all whenever I'm not streaming. But then the second I start streaming, it's like he knows it, and then he's not getting attention, so he just goes and like licks plastic. I don't know why, just to make noise, and then like knocks stuff over. I'm just like, what the fuck? Cats are way more insidious than they lead us to believe. But yeah, guys, share the stream out if you can. Like it. No idea if it makes a difference, but it lets people know that we're going to be reading some repairmen stories, which is a little bit like of an interesting niche to hear tonight. But guys, thanks so much for you guys who came to the AMA. That's a really, really cool Discord. If you guys are, earnestly interested in joining that, there is a link on my Twitter, and just ask me over Discord or wherever, DM for linkage. But I hope everyone's doing well. Don't have the normal 20 minutes to chill, but I guess that's what the whole live stream was. When's our date? I don't know. When are you picking me up? 8 p.m.? Okay. Your cat headbutts your face so bad that I fear I'll get a black eye. That's hilarious. It comes at you like a ram. Battering ram. It was so funny too, like my computer blue screen whenever I closed a window, so I'm like, Jesus, I was like, that's what it took to just blow everything up. Does not compute. Does not compute. Also, there's a new Discord, or not a new Discord, what am I saying? I'm not speaking English. There's a new podcast out tomorrow on Spotify, iTunes, and all, wherever you get podcasts at. At least they're updated, I know that they're not necessarily news stories on there, but it's just compilation of 3 hours of audio. Am I going to be reading live? I am going to be reading live. These are some spooky repairmen stories that I shall be reading live for y'all. Blue screens are prohibited in the chat. All right, you hear that, computer? You hear that, computer? Gonna curl back up in your bed. That's good. I want to do the same. How old am I? I am a ripe old 29, and in June I will be 30. Really interesting. Really interesting how fast time has gone by. I still look at like pictures from like 2009. Was it 2009? Yeah, so it's 2020. And I'm like, wait, this picture was from 11 years ago? Are you effing kidding me? And, no, it's funny you mentioned the quarantine stories because we've been compiling quite a few lockdown stories, so that's definitely in the works. I think that might be next Monday. I'm not absolutely certain, but if you guys have had any crazy experiences with, the lockdown and the quarantine and COVID and all that nonsense, just like the sort of fallout of society, the unraveling of society from, not being able to go to McDonald's, be sure to, email that or send it to the subreddit. It's on screen there in the description, reddit.com/r/let's-read-official. You know what to do. Rico, you know what to do. Yours is the 28th. Cool. Yeah, I don't know. Age is, I guess, to a degree, like, age can indicate to you, like, certain, you're like, oh man, he's 70, he's gonna die soon, but I feel like between the ages of maybe like 18 to 35, maybe not that much, maybe 25 to 35, I feel like people kind of stay relatively the same depending on their life experiences, which I don't think deviate a whole lot, but do I have any stories about kidnappers? Potentially that would be a good one. I don't know if I have enough for that yet. Age is nothing but a number. Hey, Maya B with the 10 buckaroonie says, Joel, I am well. I hope you are well too. The AMA was definitely different, but I enjoyed hearing the answer to the questions. You seem very thoughtful and well spoken. Thank you. Yeah, I tried to, and I try to think outside the box. I don't like to get too caught up in, all of the conventional narratives that people have for different topics, and I like to think about stuff, and so I appreciate that's a nice compliment. And thank you for the 10. And Caitlin Frederick with the 3 buckaroonies says, how's it going? It's going great. Going super good. Super good. Super hot. All right, guys. What do you think? Should we kick this off? Am I from Pennsylvania? I am. Good old Pennsyltucky. Just a almost 30-year-old from Pennsyltucky. Yes, sir. Oh, you had a question in the Discord. You're hoping to hear your opinion. Yeah, you can ask it now if you like. Ivana Vagina. Ivana Humpalot. I don't know if you've ever seen Austin Powers. Alex with the 2 says, head moderator PSA, stay hydrated and wash your hands. Now, should you hydrate through those hands with the water that you're washing yourself with? Do I like American Horror Story? I haven't seen it forever. I haven't seen it since the Colvin episodes. Are you uploading early because you got to work at the hospital since you are a nurse? Well, no, I'm not. My upload schedule is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and yeah, that's the upload schedule, and today's Sunday, so I believe. Yep, is it Sunday? Siri, is it Sunday? I don't know, Joe. Why don't you look up yourself? Yeah, so today's Sunday, the 19th of April, 2020. Tomorrow will be Monday, and then we'll have a video come out at 7 p.m. tomorrow I'm East Coast time. East Coast? East Side? I googled Joel Let's Read, so I guess it's him. I don't think any pictures come up of me on Google, which I'm thankful for, because I don't really want that going around. Alright guys, let's kick off this first story. I'm kind of, like I said, I'm kind of going into some of these stories blind like you are, so bear with me as we roll through it. I'm going to need someone to keep track of my mistakes. Hopefully I don't have any more than 420 mistakes. This began a few days before last year's Super Bowl. The cable box in our living room had been cutting in and out for almost a month. Under normal conditions, I wouldn't have paid much attention to it. I don't watch much television these days, even football. Besides, it worked most of the time, but my wife had invented. Besides, it worked most of the time, but my wife haven't... Shit. Googling my face is prohibited in the chat. Do not Google my face. Besides, it worked most of the time, but my wife had invited some people over from work to have a Super Bowl party. I learned long ago if I keep the wife happy, she'll leave me alone to fiddle around in the wood shop. I called into the cable company earlier in the week and made an appointment for after lunch on Thursday. When the day came, the repairman showed up right before the family was going to sit down for dinner. For a moment, I thought I saw smoke coming out of my wife's ears. There are a few things she had... Cugsbugs with the 5 says, have watched every upload, send me to sleep, so thank you. Nice, Cugsbug, you're welcome. That's one of the things we talked about in the AMA, was the things that I appreciate outside of making the content. I just appreciate that I can help you guys have a bit of a sleep now. Hi from Denmark, nice. Hello from Denmark. Hello from USA, USA. There are a few things she hates more. Wait, whoops. Did I read that wrong? For a moment I thought I saw smoke coming out of my wife's ears. There are a few things she hates more. I knew better not to say a word. After I showed the guy the location of the TV, we sat down to eat. After a quick meal, I retreated to the living room to watch the cable guy and help if needed. He checked the box first and then moved on to the cables. He asked for access to the attic, and I led him to the hall and lowered the stairs. About 10 minutes later, he returned with a frayed section of cable. It appeared that some critter had been chewing on it. Once he replaced it, everything was fine. I thanked him, and he asked to use the restroom before he left. I said sure and pointed him in the direction of it. My son and I were in front of the TV, fiddling with the channels for a while before I remembered the repair guy was still on the john. I didn't want to badger the fella, but he'd been in there for a really long time, so, just to be safe, I politely knocked on the door and asked if all was well. No reply came, but a few seconds later I heard a man's voice echoing from my daughter's bedroom. Naturally, I was curious and leaned over to peek in. The repairman was talking to my daughter at the connecting door. This scene slightly peeved me, but it seemed innocent enough. He was a young kid after all, but she was barely 16, so I stepped in and nixed it. He kindly excused himself and made his way out of the house. From that moment, he ceased to exist in my mind. That was until April of the same year. I was on my way home from work when I got a frantic call from my wife. It took a minute to figure out what she was saying, but eventually I realized someone had tried to grab our daughter on her walk home from school. When I made it home, a few minutes later, the cops were already on the scene and talking to her. My wife and I were both so frazzled they asked us to sit calmly and listen while they questioned her. I did my best, but when it came around to identifying the guy, I almost went through the roof. She described how she and another girl were just a few blocks from home. Our house is only 4 blocks from the high school, and a truck pulled up to them. The driver said hello, and my daughter recognized the guy. She walked up to the truck and started talking to him. She said he seemed really nice in the beginning, But when he asked her to go with him, she declined multiple times, and he got mad and attempted to pull her into the truck. Only because she fought so hard was she able to get free and run away with her friend. Finally, the officer asked her who the guy was, and she said it was the very same cable guy. Remember the Jim Carrey cable guy? Caitlin with a 5 says, you have an amazing voice. That's why I think we all love you. Thank you, Caitlin. I appreciate that. And that creepy kid in the corner, what up? With a 2 says, sorry if this is too personal. Are you religious? I am, but my actions would dictate otherwise, or would indicate otherwise. I am certainly a very spiritually curious individual. I think it definitely is probably a reality, but I would say in the past quite a few years, as time has kind of eroded on my faith that was probably most prevalent in high school and college. It's not that anything in particular happened. There wasn't some traumatic event that made me like hate church or all of that kind of stuff. It was just like, as time has gone on, I've become more curious. I've become almost to a degree like bored, with that whole process, the sort of organized process of church. And because I'm not necessarily sure what I'm doing there. You know what I mean? Like, because you join and for an hour it's like you listen to some guy talk and he kind of guilt trips you for being like shitty, and you don't really know why you're shitty, even though you are a law-abiding citizen and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm not asking that you saying that you need praise or anything of that nature, because obviously it's supposed to be the opposite direction. But you have so many kind of like questions, and you feel as if though you can't really ask them, or if you do finally find an opportunity to ask them, no one really knows. You know what I mean? So I definitely think when it comes to religion, it's personal for everyone. Even if you say you were part of the Church of the Buttersock, as we all are here, your experience with what you define as God is going to be different than the other person's experience. And like, when all the various erroneous rules are kind of added in that process, don't jerk off. It just kind of like muddies things and kind of limits conversation and creates a lot of like curiosity and frustration, I think, because it is a very strange concept. And say you're part of like some mega church, I wasn't, but say you are, like, I would say only like 0.001% of the individuals there actually follow the tenets of the religion to its entirety. And we were talking about Jordan Peterson and the AMA earlier, which, if you guys want to check that AMA out later, there's the playlist. In the playlist option, there's streams, and then this stream will be on there as well, so you can find it. It's just unlisted on the normal page. But basically, Jordan Peterson made a great point where he's like, do I believe in God? And he's like, that's such a, to a large degree, that's such an ambiguous question. And to a degree, for him, I keep saying to a degree, but he almost feels as if though it's like disrespectful for him to say that he believes in God, because to believe in God, especially within the context of Christianity, it requires at least what's described in the Bible and the New Testament, more specifically to Christianity and modern Christianity. It's like it demands so much from you, but it never really gives you, to a large degree, the answers that you're kind of like searching for. You know what I mean? Like, it does, but at the same time, so much of it is such a mysterious and strange and confusing experience that, like, after years and years of participating in it, I can't really see anybody that would consider themselves a Christian that's not like burnt the fudge out. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, it's just awkward. You know what I mean? It's just an awkward experience filled with people giving each other like side hugs. And now for me, I, like, if I get married one day, hypothetically, like, I would like to marry somebody that we could, be open-minded to those concepts and maybe even participate in some sort of church community and raise our kids in that scenario. You know what I mean? Like, and I look at that more from the pragmatic sense of like keeping them out of trouble. Keeping their mind open on the hypothetical that it is true. You know what I mean? And just exposing them to that level of hopefully a positive environment, because I was exposed to that, and I think it was a good thing. You know what I mean? But I know a lot of people don't have good experiences, and a lot of people have traumatic experiences, and that is very unfortunate, because I think that's the complete opposite of what is intended. But at the same time, even when you have the most baseline experience with conventional Reformed Christianity as you possibly can, and for me, I guess what you call like a Protestant, where you're not like Catholic, but you're just part of the, random other subdivisions of that. Like, even for people that are just have the most positive experience with it, their brain, eventually can just kind of lead them elsewhere, because it's just, you're pretty much left to your own devices for so long that it's just so hard to maintain, and I have no idea how anybody does it. And once again, I'm not saying that to create any sort of frustration with anybody. I just kind of stating my experiences. Anthony, my friend with the 5 says, please tell me you have seen the Christian sideways hug video. Oh, I don't think I have. That sounds hilarious. I think I remember like some pretty funny skits. I remember like I had participated growing up in like Young Life, which was like a Christian youth group situation, but like it was basically college kids going on like high school campuses and middle schools to like, recruit people to be part of their group and do Christian-y things and stuff. And I just remember one of the funny ones was like, if you got, if one of your leaders is hot, make sure you use that to your advantage. And then it just like showed some like guy who was like shirtless walk up to someone and say, hey, you want to learn about Christ? It was pretty funny. And it's funny because it's just like, that's like, I don't know, Christianity is such a weird thing, because it's like you're there for this like sort of this ambiguous overall spiritual goal of what, I'm not really sure, to honor God and love people and yada yada. But it's like, as a young guy in that, it's just like you're looking around and you're like, oh shit, she's hot. You know what I mean? It's like, it's confusing. You know what I mean? It's really in many ways like, it's just like every other aspect of culture, and it's literally no different than all of the awkward experiences anybody else would go through in high school and middle school and forever on, Well, we got a series of donations here in a row. First one from Ivanka. It says, do you think that the whole corona situation is a cover-up for something big in the background? Oh, I don't know. I really, really don't know. I mean, my fear sometimes is that, they'll utilize fear of the masses of individuals to kind of take away certain civil liberties, because, usually, as you know, once the government takes something from you, they don't usually give it back. So I would say be vigilant in that as a citizen, to kind of keep your government in check and keep people aware. But at the same time, I'm not really sure. I know some people had said that we're getting all these respirator masks ready, like maybe there's like a meteor or something, like, they talk about the Atlas meteor that goes over top of, Earth every period of time. And this time around, it'll like loop back through the sun, and as it will heat up from the sun, and then as it passes, it's going to be dropping a bunch of like particulate over top of Earth and creating a lot of respiratory problems, and that's why the masks are going to be available. All these like crazy conspiracy theories, but I got to be at the end of the day, for me, most of them just kind of sound like just fun little LARPs, you know what I mean? So dig into it as you will, but at the same time, I think it's best to kind of like, what is it, Occam's razor, lowest common denominator, like, the most simplest answer is probably the correct answer. But at the same time, don't be a little sheep about everything. Maya B with the 5 says, I never cared much for organized religion, especially for the dogma that is usually associated with it. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to be a part of it. A lot of it's very ambiguous, and you're just kind of figuring it out you're kind of figuring it out as you go, you know what I mean? And at the same time, a lot of it's cultural, like you're just trying to fit in. I mean, and you can see it prevalent in like every culture, and some cultures actually use like violence to enforce those particular beliefs, and that to me is the weirdest thing. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is so painful. You know what I mean? You see why people get pushed away from it, you know what I mean? Well, at the same time, what you're looking for, what it appears most people are looking for, is something paranormal, something spiritual, something something to transcend their perspective. But like, how often does that happen to really anybody? Like 0.0000001% of the population, and who knows? Maybe they were under the influence of like mushrooms when they had that experience. You know what I mean? So. It is what it is. I think it has its uses, and I'm trying to talk objectively, but at the same time, for me, I am still very open-minded, and but I do have a strong history in it. So at the same time, I have a lot of respect for it. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to be like the edgy teen that's going to shit on it or anything like that, because, well, technically, I'm nowhere near a teen, so that probably plays into it. But Pickle Queen with a 5. Is just having a good laugh. Thank you, Pickle Queen. All right, and Caitlin with a 2 says, "Did you know that bologna is hot dog pancakes?" Is that what? Wait, bologna? Oh my God, that's true. You need some syrup for that shit. All right, guys, we're gonna get back to reading here. I can go on some pretty rough tangents from time to time, so I promise all this audio will be nice and beautiful and edited tomorrow at the normal time. Do you not worry. She said he seemed really nice in the beginning, but when he asked her to go with him and she declined multiple times, he got mad and attempted to pull her into the truck. Only because she fought so hard was she able to get free and run away with her friend. Finally, the officer asked her who the guy was, and she said it was the very same cable repairman she had met just months prior in our home. Now, I was beyond furious. I had treated that kid with respect, and he tried this. I could have thrown him out on his butt when I caught him talking to her, but I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt and think back to how it was when I was young. Even after I let him know she was a little young for him and he tried to force himself on her. The officers managed to calm me down and left to continue the investigation. The wife and I did our best to shift our anger into helping our daughter deal with the shock and trauma from the incident. We were all relieved to hear when the scumbag was arrested later that night. He'd been spotted and pulled over by a highway patrol officer that had heard the AP. He had been spotted and pulled over by a highway patrol officer that had heard the APB, although he'd done something very stupid. He was wise enough to take the offer put forth by the district attorney. Hopefully when he comes... okay. I see how that was supposed to be phrased. He'd been spotted and pulled over by the highway patrol officer that had heard the APB. Although he'd done something very stupid, he was wise enough to take the offer put forth by the district attorney. Hopefully when he comes out in 3 years, he'll have learned to take no for an answer. Since the legal proceedings wrapped up, the rest of the family have made it our goal to help my daughter move past the attack. In addition to attending counseling alone, everyone else has joined her in 2 separate sessions to learn best how to make her healing process go as smoothly as possible. We all plan to be in attendance for her upcoming graduation. Providing her with this show of support in such a hard time is the best way I can think of to let her know we've got her back. There was a time not long ago when her achieving this milestone was in question, but I attribute her same will to There was not long to go when her achieving this milestone was in question. Wait, what? That sounds so weird for some reason. There was a time not long ago when her achieving this milestone was in question, but I attribute her same will to fight that saved her that day with driving her to move forward. I've never been prouder to be her father, and I hope she knows I'll always be there for her, no matter the circumstances. Jane A. with the $3 says, will you marry me? Oh my goodness. So many marriage proposals today. I'm just going to have to start a little... We're going to have to start a commune and start our own little cult. Oh, Alex with the $2. Sorry, buddy, I missed yours. Says, please make that tennis ball sound again. What was that noise again? I was like... I don't remember the sound of a tennis ball. What sound does a tennis ball make? Who's that tennis ball? It's tennis ball. Anthony with the 2 says, did you just slip and say Willem Dafoe? I don't think so. Where did I say that? I'm not sure where I would have... I'm not sure where I would have... When I would have said that. I'm not too sure. Also, I missed donations earlier, which kind of sucks because I was going to go back through them, but I don't think they show anymore. They were donations from during the AMA, so thank you to guys who donated. But I did remember seeing Anthony become a member during that time. So Anthony, thank you so much for becoming a member, and thank you to Hannah for also becoming a full-grown pizza. Thank you, guys. You want to be part of the marriage cult? Yeah, we're going to have to figure out... we're going to have to divvy up the spoils. Cult of Joel worshippers, yeah. I think that's the... I mean, I always think of that episode of The Office where Creed's like... He's like, yeah, I've been in a cult. I ran a cult, too. He's like, you know... You make more money running a cult, but you have a lot more fun just being in it. Fry's a leader. Fry's a moderator of the cult. Cults are prohibited in the chat. Jeez. Everything's prohibited, Alex. What the hell? Reading's prohibited in the chat. Chatting is prohibited in the chat. Creed, Bowbody. Bowbody, come... What does it say? Bowbody, come on, people. What's the first... Huh. Hey! 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 Lexley. I think I pronounced that right. With the 50 buckaroonies. Holy cow. Thank you. Thank you. Says stay safe and keep reading. Much love. Thank you. I'm trying to stay safe. What if these stalkers reach through the story, my screen, and try to pull me into their truck? That would be terrifying. Hopefully they just reach through and fix my cable. That would be nice. But thank you. Oh my goodness. It's a huge donut from Lexley. Thank you so much. Twerking, making my booty clap. October 10th, 1999 was just another ordinary Sunday around our house. After the 4 of us returned from morning services, I helped Erin, my beautiful wife, finish preparing the last few sides for lunch. Just before noon, the children were called to the table, and, as usual, a great meal was had. When we were all satisfied, the kids ran off to do their thing, and I assisted Erin in cleaning the table. Once I had completed my husbandly duties, I slipped away to the living room to nap for the few hours. Around 3:45, I was awakened by a phone call from my grandmother Annie, my dad's mother and the only remaining grandparent or parent on either side of my family. She had raised myself and my sister after our parents had passed, and we were all very close. She asked if I knew any young men that needed work as a repair maintenance man. Her last guy had gotten too old to do the work, and she needed someone to... She's looking for a sugar boy. She asked if I knew any young men that needed work as a repair maintenance man. Her last guy had gotten too old to do the work, and she needed someone new to help around the house every once in a while. I helped her out as much as I could, but between my long hours at work and driving the girls back and forth to their various school-related commitments, I couldn't be relied on to do as much as she sometimes needed. Although I had no one in mind at that very moment, I told her that I'd put the word out and get back to her the next day. My first stop was to Erin. She had nothing for me. A few calls were made to various friends, but they couldn't think of anyone. However, they promised to get back with if the situation was to change. It was a waiting game now, so I plopped myself back down in the chair and dozed off again. A knock came at the door just as I began to drift off. The interruption annoyed me, and for a second I considered not answering it. I decided to go ahead, if just to stop them from banging on the door. When I opened it, I was met by a smiling young man holding business cards. He asked if I needed him to mow the yard. I declined his offer, but just then Grandmother Annie's request popped into my mind. He was about to walk away until I caught him and asked him if he could do basic repairs, things like fixing broken garbage disposals. When I asked this, his eyes lit up and he said yes. In fact, he had been a Mr. Fix-It in his last job, but unfortunately there was not enough work, so he was forced to fall back on lawn mowing to make ends meet. I briefly looked him over and thought about it in my head for a moment. He seemed like a nice, well-mannered kid. He said thank you, which is more than you can say about most people these days. Finally, I told him to give me a card. I might have a steady job for him. He did, and I promised to let him know in the morning. I let him go, and I returned to the house to enjoy my lazy afternoon. The next morning, I called Miss Annie, my family's name for her, to let her know I may have somebody, and I'd be sending him over that morning. When I hung up with her, I called the young man, Mark, and gave him the address. I told him he'd be doing small repairs and maintenance around my grandmother's house. At the end of each week, he was to come over to my place and I'd pay him. Once the specifics were nailed down, he'd thank me and went on his way. Whoops. What's the specifics? And Mr. Anthony Esposito with another 10 buckaroonies. He's dancing there. Thank you, my good friend. Thank you. And Anthony again with the 5 says, well, it's about that time for me to head off, possibly be back later, bro Stamos, like John Stamos. Well, thank you, my bromosexual. Sorry, I guess that's not a good one. What's a good one? Bro J? Like Bro J Simpson? I don't really know. But thank you, my friend. I hope you have a good day, and maybe we shall see you later. Drink the Joel juice. F you is thirsty. Bromance. Oh, yeah, bromance probably would have been better. We have a bit of a bromance, me and Mr. Esposito. Maybe I need more bromances in my life. Once the specifics were nailed down, he thanked me and went on his way. With that out of the way, I focused on the task in front of me and put everything else out of my mind. When I returned home that day, I rang Miss Annie up to see how Mark had done. Her report of his work was encouraging. She spoke on more than one occasion of how eager he was to do well and his great attention to detail. The sad news was very pleasing to hear and assured me I'd made the right decision. Wait, why did I say sad news? I swear I saw the word sad there for a second. This news was very pleasing to hear and assured me I'd made the right decision. Life would continue as normal. That Friday, Mark showed up at 6 p.m. to get his money and thank me, once again, for the opportunity. Dinner was just moments from hitting the tables, so I had to cut our talk short. I told him to come around about the same time next week, and he took off, with what I assumed was a song in his heart and a smile on his face. This routine would repeat itself for the next several months. However, as time went by, Mark's smile would fade, and his appreciation seemed to become more of an attitude of entitlement. He got to the point where he wouldn't even say thank you, or anything for that matter, to me. He'd just snatch the money from my hand and walk away. While this behavior ticked me off, I didn't have to like him, as long as he did his job. I hadn't talked to Miss Annie for a while, so one Monday morning I gave her a ring to see how things were going. She said all was well, but I could tell from her voice something was bothering her. After a few minutes of coaxing, she admitted that Mark hadn't been doing his job as well as he had at first. Once a month or so had passed, he began making comments about money and not getting enough work. Since I was the one paying him, she had no idea how much he was making, so she said nothing. I assured her I was paying him plenty, enough money for a full-time employee, as a matter of fact. He had no reason to complain. When she mentioned that he would get angry toward her, it scared her. Whoops. Noah, what's up, dog? What's pop-a-loppin'? Pop, drop, and lock it, my dude. Bomance, another title for a horror story. He gave me a broner. Be sure to kiss your homies goodnight. On the forehead. When she mentioned... Whoops. When she mentioned he would get angry... Whoops, I don't know why that seems so weird. When she mentioned he would get angry toward her and it scared... Oh, ABK. Okay, I see it now. When she mentioned he would get angry toward her and it scared her, I became a little concerned. Just to calm her fears, I told her I would talk to him that Friday. Even after we hung up with one another, her remark about being scared continued to eat at me. Miss Annie was very special to me, and the idea of her being afraid made me mad. I was determined to nip his behavior in the bud, but it became a problem, but I had to make sure I did so with a clear and calm head. Anger would only serve to exacerbate the situation and breed bitterness between us. I'd cooled off by the time Friday came around. In fact, I was in a pretty good mood. Spring was just beginning to rear its head, and I was looking forward to more sunny and warm days. Mark arrived at the usual time and had the now common scowl across his face. He attempted to He attempted to Snapchat me. He attempted to snatch the cash from my hand, but before he could, I stopped him and said we needed to talk. He said nothing as I spoke, just stared with an annoyed look. I finished and asked if we had a problem between us and made sure to express how serious I was. All he could say was no and assured me we were cool before he slowly reached out for the money and pulled it from my hand. This time, he at least said thank you before walking away quickly. I couldn't be positive, but things seemed to be clearer, if not better. I wouldn't know for sure until I spoke to Miss Annie that Monday, but I felt optimistic about it. Things at work were very hectic that Monday, so I wasn't able to call Miss Annie until later in the day. Strangely, I got no answer, but figured she was out or busy and I could try again later. Work got busy again, and it was not until I clocked out that I could call her back. Once again, no answer came, but I decided to let it go until the next day. Tuesday morning was much quieter around the office. I had plenty of time to make a call. For the third time, she didn't answer. Now I was becoming scared. So I contacted the police and asked if they could do a wellness check. Miss Annie was almost 80 by then, and the chance of falls were high in people that age. I was told they would, and to call back in a few hours. However, it was they who called. Okay. However, it was they who called me back. The tone of the officer's voice uneased me, and he seemed to be dragging out things. This made me mad. I was already on edge from worry. Although I'm not proud of it now, at the time it was understandable. I yelled at him to spit it out, so he did just that. They had done the wellness and found Miss Annie dead. This was unexpected but not shocking. Assuming she died of a heart attack, I asked what the causes were. When he told me that she had been murdered, I blanked out for a minute. Never in my wildest fears had I expected to hear those words. He had to yell out a few more times before I responded, and even then, I felt like I was in a fog. This stuck with me for about an hour, but once I had to tell my family the news, the weight of it knocked me back into reality. The only information the officer could give me at the time was that she appeared to have been attacked by one or more people with hammers or blunt objects. If I would have had my wits about me then, the second I heard the word hammer, I could have told him who it was. But that didn't turn out to be required. I give the cop credit for being kind with his words, even after I'd screamed at him. He could tell from my hemming and hawing what I wanted to ask and assured me that there were no signs that she had messed with, if you get my drift. Oh. Wait, what? What? Hemming and hawing. Sorry. Hawing. What I wanted to ask and assured me there were no signs that she had messed with, if you get my drift. And I think... Oh, okay. I give the cop credit for being kind with his words, even after I'd screamed at him. He could tell from my hemming and hawing what I wanted to ask, and assured me that there were no signs that she had been messed with, if you catch my drift, and I thanked him later for this. The rest of the family took the news almost as hard as I did. Miss Annie had become like a second mother to my wife, and my kids loved her greatly. We'd become very dependent on her after we relocated here, and the thought of her not being around was agonizing. It took a day or two before I remembered Mark and gave him a call. I didn't answer, but after I left a message to contact me ASAP. The longer I thought about it, however, it struck me as odd that he hadn't called me. The first day he received no answer at the door. He should have called me. My confusion would grow into full-blown suspicion once I discovered two important things. The pathologist determined Miss Annie had died sometime before noon on Monday, and perhaps the more... Archangel Sagil, keep up the good work. You're the best narrator on YouTube. Cheers, mate. Thank you, Archangel. Appreciate it. I'm yawning. Am I yawning? I don't remember yawning. I yawn all the time, I think. I think yawning is like a manifestation of... I mean, aside from just being generally tired, I think it's from, like, your body releasing... Or, like, has too much CO2 or some shit. And I know a lot of people don't really know exactly why people yawn. But some say that it's like your brain is producing a lot of, like, CO2 maybe from overuse, and then it, like, releases it through your respiratory system. That could be completely made up, and it sounds kind of made up, but I think maybe reading kind of drains... it has a brain drain. Fuck, where was I, dude? Okay. The pathologist determined Miss Annie had died sometime before noon on Monday, and perhaps the more scary of the two, Mark was still unreachable. The results came in that Friday morning, and the cops had been to his home twice and called him every day since I mentioned him to them on Wednesday afternoon. I expected to see him that evening to get his pay, but he never showed. This all but cemented his guilt in my mind. I told the police as much, and over the following weeks they would come to agree with me. Other than having his fingerprints and blood at the scene, everything pointed to him. All they had to do was get him in a room alone, and hopefully he would confess, but just locating him to do this would be a 5-year struggle. Countless tips were sent in, but none would pan out. Finally, on a rainy and cold morning in January of 2006, an arrest would take place across the country in Arizona that would put the search to an end. The Tucson police would be led on a high-speed chase after attempting to pull a man over for expired plates. At the end of the chase, Marco Javier Robles would be apprehended. Wait, is it Robles? The name is Robles, but I feel like it's probably not pronounced Robles. Robles, something like that, you know what I mean? I read you a good night story. That's what I'm doing right now, dog. Spanish for oaks. Wonder if anybody knows how to pronounce this name, Robles. Pronouncenames.com.
Pronouncenames.com.
Oh, God.
Robles.
Oh, you gotta roll the R. Can I roll my R's?
Robles.
Robles. I don't think I can do it consistently though. If I had to roll my R's. Robles. Okay. At the end of the chase, Marco Javier Robles would be apprehended, and our search would finally be over. Marco was quickly extradited back east, and the trial was soon to begin. What we feared would be a long and drawn-out affair ended within the week. The district attorney had offered him a very generous plea, and after a strong recommendation from his attorney, he agreed. He'll have to do at least 25 years, but after that, it's up to the parole board. If I have any sway in the matter, I'll do Boobles. Bubles. Bubles. If I have any sway in the matter, I'll do my best to see that he dies in there. We were left with only one question. Some would say the most important one, perhaps. Why? As a stipulation to his plea, Mark was required to tell why he committed the crime, and in full. According to him, Miss Annie had become very demanding, and he felt he wasn't being paid enough to put up with it. He had been planning on hitting me up for more money once summer came along. However, when he found out she had told me that he was unhappy with his pay, in his eyes, his chance for a raise was ruined. That Monday morning, he was angry about this and confronted Miss Annie about what she had said, and a fight broke out. He claimed she grabbed a poker from the fire set and hit him. In self-defense, he struck her with his hammer, but only did so once. His intent was never to end her life, only to make her stop. Unfortunately, it did just that and more, and my family will never be the same because of it. A less rational man than myself would probably put some, if not all, the blame onto herself. Oh, sorry. A less rational man than myself would probably put some, if not all, the blame onto myself for hiring the guy. I, however, am not that man. No one else but Mark is responsible for Miss Annie's death. Any other conclusion would be foolish and a desecration to her memory. If there is anything I would say I feel guilty about, it would be that my children weren't able to spend as much time with her as I did growing up. A better example of selfless love and kindness never existed, and I savor every memory I have of her. I hope I can live up to her example and teach my children to be half the human being she was. Send your M&Ms. Oh yeah, did I miss a donation there? An office with the two says bubles. Let me see your bubles. If I did a whole video with a Spanish accent, that would be a complete shit show probably. Okay, so we are on to story 3 here. It actually was, I mean, it's a sad story, but I think there was another story a while back about like a raccoon. I don't know if you guys remember that, where they shot a raccoon, and it was just like I don't know. Some of the stories, they kind of end anticlimactically. Please, next April Fools, please. You know, it's just tough because it's like you do like I do content related to April Fools, and it like actually hurts your channel. Like it hurts your channel, which like sucks, you know what I mean? Like, because my channel pretty much has consistently got the same views for quite a while, probably like 2 years or something like that. And if whenever like, and then I start to see a little bit of momentum, and then I do anything that deviates from that, and then it just like, you know, then you're punished. You go, like, say you go up like, you know, one rung, but then you do deviate from your content a little bit, and then you go down 2 rungs, and it's just, I don't know, it's frustrating. No, Erica with the, well, these are Billabene bucks, which I think equates to 10 buckaroos, but thank you so much. Says, I hope you're doing well. Thank you. Yeah, actually, let me see. What PHP was the PHP currency? Are the Filipino peso. Okay, nice. And 250 Filipino pesos to USD is 4.92 United States dollar. Nice. Well, obviously, I know some people in chat like think that, they get, I just don't want, like, because my reaction, like, if someone donated $250, I would lose my shit. You know what I mean? And I'm obviously very thankful for any Filipino pesos, but I just want to give you my reasoning for not being like, holy fucking shit, that's 250, but obviously I would go nuts for that. But thank you, and I hope you're doing well as well. And Nisha with the 10 says, ooh, alive so early in the day. I'm used to your love. Yeah, normally I would do it like later, but I was doing this AMA and I thought, it would be fun, like an AMA on a Discord channel that talks about politics and philosophy, and it's really good Discord. You should join it. It's on my Twitter, link there, at Let's Read Creepy. But basically, I live streamed the AMA earlier, and then I figured, hey, why not just transition right into this stream? Coincidentally enough, at the end of my AMA, my computer blue screened, so I kind of had to start the live stream over anyways, which was just kind of hilarious. I don't know. You gonna simp me? You know what, guys? You guys are more than welcome to simp me as much as you want. But I think what you should really be simping is shrimping. Because Forrest Gump was a shrimp simp. And I feel like we all need to be more like Forrest. Okay, on to story 3. Pradeep is laying over on a chair. It's so funny that he likes laying on like my clothes. Ooh. I like swallowed some water, but I felt like I had swallowed something else in there too. What the fuck? Probably just a bug. Probably just some Corona. I was thinking if I did do a drunk stream, I would have no way to prove to you guys that I was taking the shots that you guys, told me to take. So that would be hard to prove. Maybe I could do like a hand cam or something. I don't really know. I don't have like a camera, like a webcam or anything like that. And honestly, I feel like I would just be like too insecure like to do a face cam. And it's not because like I'm hideous or anything like that. It's just like it's another thing to like consider all the time, you know what I mean? Like you just always have to like think that people are just sitting there staring at your face, and it's not something I'm used to, you know what I mean? Chatterbait. Now that's something I could get into. Also, sweet. We've reached 400 people. You'll know when the slurring starts. That is very, very true. From what I recall, I'm pretty good at holding my liqueur, but I also don't really remember. I think the stuff that makes me the drunkest, surprisingly, is like wine. Like if I do something about wine, just makes me like real fucking loose. I guess that's why they drank it back in Rome. Jen Child with the 5. What's up? What are you doing? Happy Sunday. Am I going to change your diaper? Did you poo-poo your pants? That's how I'd talk to every patient in the hospital. I still laugh at my friend saying, he was like a CNA at the time, he's a nurse now, but it just said that whenever he would clean patients and stuff up, that like he had a patented rag, or it was like one rag like kept in the janitor's closet that he would use on every patient, and it's just so fucking funny. I'd never had any problems with my guys until Don Bullard came along. He'd arrived with a raft load of recommendations and obviously knew his stuff. His attitude was the only thing I foresaw being a barrier, but It wasn't bad enough for me to change my mind. His Whoa. Sorry. Usually if someone donates on the other thing, that kind of interrupts me because oh, it's Molly with the 5. She says, don't squint too hard. I love you and I hope you're safe. Thank you, Molly. Also, Molly, I think I saw your donation, the 5 on the last stream as well during the AMA, and I wanted to apologize for not saying thank you to everybody who donated then because I was kind of like in the midst of chatting with the Q&A person from that Discord, and I didn't want to like go back and forth between donations. But yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate that. And thank you, Anthony, as well, here with the 5 says drunk stream, and I swear, hiccup, these goddamn ghosts need to get a job. They do, man. These ghosts got nothing better to do than bug me all day and collect their checks. Am I a registered nurse? You know, I am. I have not worked as much as I have in the past, and this is technically my full-time job, but I still have my license as a nurse, and you know, if it ever comes down to it, I will go back to that career. I hope to, you know, do podcasting and YouTube as long as the platforms exist. So there is that hope. Nursing is a good job. It's you know, it's a tough job. You know, you're dealing with people at their lowest lows and their messiest messies. His attitude was the only thing I foresaw being a barrier, but it wasn't bad enough for me to change my mind. His first day on the clock was early May. By June, I was already regretting my decision to hire him. I'd seen my share of idiots in my time, but that kid took the cake. Any words I spoke to him, he had to be met with some Whoops. What's another word for smartass? Because I said idiot, but it's... Auntie Shell with the 3 says, big thank you, Joel. You're welcome. Thank you, Auntie. Let's see. Synonyms for smartass. Synonyms for smartass. Audacious, blatant, bold, impudent, shameless, unabashed. Yeah, maybe shameless. We'll go with shameless, whatever. I'd seen my share of shameless dudes in my time, but that kid took the cake. Any words I spoke to him had to be met with some needlessly sarcastic remark. Had he been any other plumber, I'd have fired that son of a bitch. Shit. Fuck, I can't say these naughty words. Tati D with the 5, thank you. Thank you. I could be a school nurse and work with kids, that's true. I was friends with a girl who works as a school nurse now, but the thing is with like school nurses is that like you pretty much are like the only line of defense for everybody's crap, you know what I mean? Like whether it's a girl because she's got, you know, migraines or lady problems, or like a boy who falls off the, you know, basketball hoop and literally cracks his neck, like you have to be the one to respond to that. And you know, I never really worked in like an emergency scenario, and I just don't know how well I would do. I feel like school nurses are just better jobs for girls, you know what I mean? Or people that like are able to kind of deal with kids all day, and I don't really know. I mean, I love kids, they're awesome, but I don't know if I could really deal with that all the time. Brianna, thank you. Thank you. And Talent, hi. Just give you some ice. Yeah, if I just need a big block of ice near me all the time, I can just chip off some for people. Had he been any other plumber, I'd have fired him. Unfortunately, he just happened to be the best at his job that I'd witnessed in a long time. This was more than likely why he was such a jerk. Even though he'd become such a thorn in my side, I would have never have guessed he was capable of what he was about to do. We did a call out to find the source of the leak, a job that any first-year guy could do. So I told Don to handle it himself. I had far more pressing matters elsewhere, and he was overqualified for the job in the first place. I handed him the paperwork, and he took off in one of the vans. About 4 or 5 hours later, I get a call from the cops. They wanted me to come in and talk to them about a problem one of my guys had just had with a customer and his wife. I was naturally curious about what had happened. It had only been a few hours, and no one had called to make a complaint. Don was the only guy out on a job at the time. I knew it had to be him. It wouldn't be the first time that he had butted heads with a homeowner, but even after I pressed the officer on what had occurred, he wouldn't say over the phone. I wrapped up what I was doing as fast as possible and headed down there. When I arrived, the front desk officer led me down a long hall and into a small office with a couple of messy desks. He asked me to sit down and an officer would be with me in a minute. I twiddled my thumbs and looked around at all the diplomas and pictures on the wall. This went on for a good 10 minutes before a young, skinny kid with a gun on his side came into the room and introduced himself. I told him who I was, and he commenced to lay out the craziest, most shocking story I'd ever heard about someone I knew. Don had arrived at the customer's house and knocked on the door. He mumbled his Perseus. Jordan says, Joel, I'm only a CNA and I worked as a school nurse. If there's a big emergency, you call 911. Yeah, that's true. I know. I would feel terrible to be the one that just, like, doesn't do everything within my, like, sort of, like, first responder power to accomplish it. And I almost feel like a hospital setting would be much better, perhaps, you know what I mean? Or like even like CPR and stuff. Like I worked on a floor that didn't really have a lot of codes or people like, dying. So I feel like my emergency experience is not up to snuff that it should be, especially with children, because you don't want to be the one that's like, I don't remember how many compressions and breaths I should do on this little kid. And then he's dead and it's your fault. Kind of, but you get the picture. Fuck, where was I? Okay. He mumbled his purpose for being there under his breath. When the male homeowner asked him to speak up, Don repeated himself, but this time in a very loud voice. The homeowner just pointed at the crawl space and walked off. Don disappeared under the house for about half an hour. When he returned, he was wet and covered in mud. The homeowner approached him and asked if he had discovered the source of the leak. Don was said to have screwed up his face and sarcastically answered him with a, "What do you think? Look at me." The remark annoyed the homeowner even more, and he called Don an arrogant little a-hole. This made him fly into a rage, and he began beating the homeowner about his head with a wrench. The homeowner's wife had heard her husband's screams and ran into the room to help him. She began punching Don in the back, and he spun around and returned the favor by punching her in the face over and over until she stopped moving. He must have thought that they were both dead because he sat down on their couch and smoked a cigarette. What he didn't know was that the couple had a young son in the house, and he had called the police when the fight first began. Don was on his way out the door when the officers arrived, and he was taken into custody. The mother was in critical condition at the hospital, but the husband had unfortunately been pronounced at the scene. Most of the information they had at that point was because of Don. The detective said that all through their investigation he had been calm and happy to answer their questions in depth, almost as if he was proud of what he had done. By the time the cop... Jesus Christ. Crazy bastard. It does kind of make you wonder when people will eventually just snap. Oh, you've got the dab... I don't know how that dab emoji ever made it into chat, but I love it. I don't know where it comes from or who put it in there, but it exists and it's really funny. You want to mouth-to-mouth resuffocate me? By the time the cop finished the story, I was almost catatonic. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, and at first I thought this was all a dream. I pinched myself just to make sure. Even today, when I tell people who knew him what he did, they're shocked almost as much as I was. The detective spent the next hour asking me questions about Don and if I knew why he would do such a thing. There was very little I could give him. Don had always... Don had always been sarcastic, but never in a violent... Oops. Dawn had always been sarcastic, but never violent in any way. I was out of it for most of the remainder of that day. I still didn't understand what had happened until I relayed the story to my wife and listened to the words as they came out of my mouth. This all happened in August of last year. As of the time I'm writing this, Don is scheduled to begin his trial the first week of April. The charges are 1 count of second-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. Despite being offered a more than fair plea deal, he's chosen to take it the whole way. Regardless of the result, he'll probably be sorry, I don't know how. BB. He'll probably BB. Regardless of the result, he'll probably be spending the next 40-plus years in prison. This thought eats me up inside. Even if I couldn't stand the kid, it all just seems like such a terrible waste. Joel doesn't have a face. I don't have one. It's just a fearful enigma. Just a shapeless form of goop. And the words just kind of reverberate out of my essence. Do I like anime? I do. I downloaded this app. It's kind of neat. What is the app called? Sorry, let me find it. Oh yeah, so it's called Retro Crush, and it's just like a app that has a bunch of like retro anime on it from like, you know, back in the day. Who knows? Maybe even like all the way to the 70s or beyond. And I scratch my beard. Scritchy, scratchy. The Scritchy and Scratchy Show. And it's pretty cool, you know what I mean? Because, like, obviously classic animes, I think, to a large degree, might even be more badass than the new ones and stuff. But I don't really watch a ton of new animes, really. Like, I kind of just catch things here and there. And then I kind of get bored. I just get bored of shows, especially if I have to watch them by myself, you know? And this anime called Banana Fish is really good. Watch it, please. Yeah, I would like to. What's that one about? What anime genre do I like? Well, I don't really know. I mean, you know, back in the day I watched, or not back in the, I mean, I watched like everything kind of, but I feel like I'm more inclined towards movies, you know? Because I just can't like pay attention to a show for a long period of time unless I'm like watching it with somebody. So at least with a movie, it's just like, okay, I just have to survive this hour and a half of sitting and staring, and hopefully it's good. So, you know, I loved the Ghost in the Shell movie. I love all the movie, you know, the movies from Studio Ghibli, Spirited Away, and that kind of thing. And I'm definitely down to sit and watch, you know, really any anime as long as it's just like an hour and a half or whatever. Ghost Stories English Club. Yeah, actually, that dub, I watched a few of that on, a little bit of that on YouTube, and it was really funny. I have a nice voice for singing. I don't know. Maybe perhaps I could sing to you. I don't really know if I probably would break people's ears if I actually tried. I feel like I could be more inclined to sing like musical bullshit rather than just like if I had to sing like a rock song, it would sound fucking terrible. But if I could sing like I was Jack Skellington and the year was 1942 and we just dropped the nuclear bomb, maybe I could do some bullshit like that. Kiki's Delivery Service, yeah. That'd be sweet. I don't know what the fuck I just said, but that Kiki's Delivery Service was sweet. There's so many good animes. I actually, anime is a goddamn human treasure. You don't know why I didn't get into voice acting. I mean, I'm technically in voice acting, except I'm my own boss for it. I've talked to a friend that works out at Funimation, and Gwampy, that's funny. And like, you know, I asked her, I was like, okay, if I just like moved to, because you have to be like within, I think, 2 hours of their offices in Flower Mound, Texas, which I wouldn't be opposed to living in Texas, because, you know, I don't think they have like income tax on certain, on this, like, I don't think they have a state income tax, which is pretty dope, and their laws are a lot more lenient in things. But at the same time, moving is a big move. And I know for a fact, as she has said, that, you know, they're not just gonna like roll out the red carpet when you arrive at like a voiceover place. Like, you have to you know, you have to build up your portfolio and that kind of shit. You have to take acting classes, because to be honest, like, I might be able to hit like a certain sort of voice acting aspect in a story a little bit here and there, but if I really had to do it all the time, I think it would take me a lot of I would need a lot of practice to get like believable, and especially to kind of create some sort of diversity in my voice to kind of be marketable to a large extent. But it definitely would be fun. It would be a dream come true to be a main character or one of the, you know, primary characters in an anime, show, movie, video game. Like, that would be ballin' as fuck, you know what I mean? But we shall see. Have I watched Taken before, the extraterrestrial one? I don't think so. But I could be an evil anime man. That's the last move you'll ever make, Tetsuo. Soon, you will reap your reward. Tetsuo! It's so funny the way that like anime people, like when they see something like She's like, why the fuck does every sudden reaction require any amount of breath to come out of your head? Can't you just like look at it? What's over there? You gotta be like, oh, holy shit. I think the voice would be really exhausted at first. Yeah, it definitely would be tough. I would need some sort of spirit noises. Hentai sound. Ah. Oh. Yeah, it's like they're choking. Oh. Okay, mission start. Can you just look at it? Like any reasonable man, my dad took the gypsy's words with a very small pinch of salt. His girlfriend at the time had drug him down to the palm reader's place to see his Wait, gypsy? Isn't a gypsy I feel like that's gonna upset people if I say that. They're like, excuse me. You said a word I don't like. The mediums, we'll say mediums. We'll say that. Like any reasonable man, my dad took the medium's words with a very small pinch of salt. His girlfriend at the time had drug him down to the palm reader's place to see his future. She claimed upon their meeting that he felt he had some type of danger looming ahead. He didn't put much credit into this psychic mumbo-jumbo, but he loved the girl and was willing to do almost anything to make her happy. The old woman said he was in grave danger and should be very careful where he went. He laughed it off and paid her. Outside of the shop, the girlfriend whined at him for not taking it seriously. He stared into the beautiful blue eyes of the hippie girl and had assured her he would watch out. Inside, however, he was laughing at the unfounded fear she was feeling and had no intent in changing the way he lived his life. This was how he said it all. Whoops. Senpai! Senpai! Joel's moving to Norway soon. Oh boy. The beautiful Viking women. This is how he said it all began. He and my mom had just started dating earlier that summer, and he was falling deeply in love with her by the day. Despite her new age ideas and new age. Despite her new age ideas and beliefs, she was a smart girl. They would continue to see one another for several years before he got the guts to pop the question. Mom claims he cried more than she did when she said yes. They moved in together soon after, and the wedding photos showed two people very much in love and happy. I didn't make an appearance until late 1980, almost 2 years after the wedding, but no matter my age, they included me in all of their special occasions and holidays. Even before I reached my 12th birthday, Dad had me answering phones and making appointments on my school vacations. It was almost like the three of us were put together to make others' lives better and more joyful. At the moment I write this, I have a photo of all of us in front of me. It was taken outside of our camp in Colorado during a summer vacation. Not long after that trip, I began to have a very bad feeling my father was in danger. I'd yet to hear the story of the palm reader, so I was still unaware of my mom's fears, and when I mentioned my feelings to Dad, he laughed them off. I guess at this point I should mention what Dad did for a living, as it had a lot to do with the story. A few years prior to meeting my mom, he'd inherited a garage door business from his father. He had been running it by himself through most of the 70s, but as it became more stressful, he took on a partner to share the workload. When I began working the phones there, he and his partner had already began leaving it to the employees to the... Fuck. Sometimes I read too fast and I trip over my wordies. When I began working the phones there, he and his partner had already began leaving it to the employees to do the majority of the installations. They would only go out into the field in special circumstances. One of those special circumstances would arise when an older customer requested he and his partner come out and replace one of his automatic door openers. Any other time, he would have handed the job off to one of the installers, but the customer asked for them in particular. This guy wasn't your run-of-the-mill homeowner. He had 25 properties, and they all had my dad's products in them. If he asked for something special, Dad listened. His partner wasn't pleased to hear about it, but knew just like Dad that his customer was business they wanted to keep. Therefore, Dad and his partner Mike dug their tools out of storage in the warehouse and got to work. When they arrived at the property, there was no indication this job would be any more dangerous than any other. Dad set up a ladder and prepared to loosen the bolts holding the main unit to the ceiling. He realized quickly that he'd chosen the wrong size socket and stepped down to get the right one. Mike, who had been at the end of the tracking, standing on a ladder, made a harmless verbal jab at Dad for forgetting the size of a bolt he'd screwed in and out several thousands of times. Perhaps to make the process go faster, Mike climbed Dad's ladder and began loosening the bolts himself. He'd made maybe 2 turns on the second bolt when it unexplicably... Fuck. Once this happened... Okay. Let me just start that whole fucking paragraph over again. It's weird. Joel's juice kills coronavirus. It's true. There's a lot of vitamin C and vitamin D. Mike, who had been at the end of the tracking, standing on a ladder, made a harmless jab. Fuck. What is wrong with me right now? I can't read. Clean the chat with Joel Juice Purell. Oh my god. Mike, who had been at the end of the tracking, standing on a ladder, made a harmless verbal jab at Dad for 4... Dude, what is wrong with me? I can't do it. Fucking hell. Mike, who had been at the end of the tracking, standing on a ladder, made a harmless verbal jab at Dad for forgetting the size of a bolt he'd screwed in and out thousands of times. Perhaps to make the process go faster, Mike climbed Dad's ladder and began loosening the bolts himself. He'd made maybe 2 turns on the second bolt when it unexpectedly popped out, causing the other bolt to pop out from its socket. Once this happened, nothing was left to hold up the unit, and it dropped, swinging into Mike's face. The weight of the unit, combined with the force in which it struck him, caused him to fly backwards uncontrollably onto the floor. This all happened in a matter of about a second. Dad said he felt helpless as he watched it occur. I believe even all these years later, he's still been unable to forgive himself. I probably don't have to tell you, Mike didn't survive. Regardless of the quick response by the EMS, he was most likely gone before he arrived at the hospital. Dad returned to the scene soon after to see if he could discover the reason for the accident. It appeared whoever installed that opener had used very short bolts. When Mike began to loosen them, expecting there to be plenty of threads to hold the unit, his fate was sealed. Dad briefly thought about tracking down the installer, but realized it would ultimately bring... Oops. Dad thought about tracking down the installer, but realized it wouldn't bring Mike back. He did, however, return to every one of their rental properties and check the bolts. Fortunately, none of the others had short bolts, and Dad could truly move on and begin to mourn his lost friend. As I sat and listened to him describe the accident, something struck me as strange about it. To me, it appeared as if Dad was the intended target, but Mike walked into it by mistake. When I say target, I don't mean someone conspired to harm him. I mean rather that fate had chosen Dad to die that day Oh, whoops. Wait, is everything alright? Someone says, am I good? Oh yeah, we're good. Stream... Sorry, when you guys say am I good, I imagine that the stream died or something. Can you eat your own dead skin? That makes you a zombie though, so be very careful. When I say target, I don't mean someone conspired to harm him. I mean rather that fate had chosen Dad to die that day instead, but Mike foiled its plans. After he completed the story, I mentioned this to him. He attempted to blow it off as he had when I had mentioned my concerns in the past, but this time something deep inside was stirred up, and he told me the tale. He told me the tale. You're just checking. Alright, thanks, dude. No, sometimes I just get annoyed whenever I fuck up reading like 9 times in a row. I'm like, God damn it. You know how it goes. It's like playing a video game boss and getting killed. Or like, did you ever play Super Meat Boy? Oh, my roommate's now taking a shower at 6:24 p.m. Sorry, I have to wait for, I have to wait for him to finish showering because my mic will, pick up all of the noise and stuff like that, so... Cause it's like right through the door or through the wall, and it's annoying. Is he going out? Yeah, I highly doubt that. Do you like strawberries, Joel? I love strawberries. Actually, I don't right now. I have raspberries and blackberries, and holy crap, those are so good. And I've been putting them, basically I have cottage cheese and Greek yogurt, like both plain or whatever, and then I put some whipped cream on it with those berries, a myriad of those berries, and just that's like a dessert. It's so good. And apparently berries are like probably the lowest sugar, blackberries, raspberries, like the lowest sugar content of a lot of fruits, which is pretty surprising, but they also taste really good. Where's Pradeep? He's still on the chair having a good Pradeep nap. Yeah, the microphone that I'm talking into isn't going to pick up on the shower, but the microphone that I'm recording into probably will, because it's very sensitive to like external sounds, and I just want to keep it, not even worry about it. Raspberries taste like sour candy. They do. Add some chocolate pudding to that. Yeah, that would be good. I'm just like, right now I've been trying to do, during the AMA I was talking about how, and I've said before, I do keto, and it's been going good, just low carb. I've been having some pretty good salads where it's, what's in that salad? It's basically a baby spinach, or a spinach like type base for like the greens, and then I put chopped up egg, chopped up avocado. Today I put like a pickle and like a chopped up, diced up pickle because I don't know, whenever you're trying to digest things, pickles are pretty good for your digestion, and the vinegar and that kind of stuff. And just basically foods that are fermented, like sauerkraut and that kind of thing. And then there was like some provolone cheese balls, some macadamia nuts, and then chia seeds, some like bacon ranch dressing. So I'm going pretty ham on that, and it's really good. Oh, only 82 likes. Yeah, guys, we need some more likes. Give me them likes. What part of Pennsylvania? Well, maybe you should just, you can DM me that question. I don't really want to get too hyper-specific into my life sometimes, but you get the vibe. Cheese balls. Yeah, dude, honestly, the only bad thing about keto is that, like, digestion-wise, like, cheese and my stomach does not agree very, very well. You know what I mean? Have you ever been to Europe? I have not been to Europe before. What state? Yeah, I'm in PA. Pennsylvania. Oh, 188 likes. Nice. It says 19 likes. Oh, weird. Maybe it just shows different for everybody depending on when you got here. But, yeah, basically, like, from what I hear is that, like, from what, like, I don't even know, am I lactose intolerant? Probably. Like, your body's ability to store fat and your body's ability to burn fat, calories in, calories out is important, but apparently your body can be in a better state of utilizing fat to burn or gaining weight depending on your hormones. So like every time you eat, your body releases insulin, and there's like just like a correlation, like there's an inverse relationship between the presence of insulin and HGH. And like when your body has like its peak amounts of like HGH, it's like it's repairing, it's building muscle, it's using fat for burning, and it plays a large role in that. Whereas when you eat, and usually sugar related contents, your body releases insulin, and there's a higher correlation to your body trying to store energy, by usually storing sugar in the form of like fat and, things of that nature. So I think your hormones definitely play into it. I've been reading a lot into like, ketogenic diet, which honestly I have not felt too bad doing it. It's been feeling pretty good, and I've done it before, and that's where I lost a lot of weight, or my most weight, I guess. I think the lowest I was down to was like a pretty lean, like 175, which was pretty cool. I, haven't been there in a while, but, and then also in combination with that, like intermittent fasting. So I'm going to try to just eat within the hours of like 12 to 8. And then, they even advise, if you can, just pretty much doing like between the hours of, or between a 4-hour window, because while you're in the fasting state, the other parts of the day, you can essentially just be burning the maximum amount of fat, allowing your digestive system to get rid of its inflammation and repair itself, things of that nature. And then obviously like getting rid of, like, a lot of people have like insulin resistance, you know what I mean? Like pre-diabetic type scenarios. But from what I hear, like a lot of diabetic symptoms and diabetes itself can be essentially reversed with diet if you start to focus on that. Joel, do you have an email I can send you a scary story? Does it have to be through Reddit? It can be through Reddit, but my email is letsreadsubmissions@gmail.com. And I just advise anybody that does send a story in, whether it's on Reddit or, email, to just really try your best to have, like, good grammar, good paragraphs, put whatever tagline you want for, like, the title of the story in the title of it, just so I know what it is. Just making it easier on me. I hate reading like walls of text, and if you send a story of a wall of text, I'm not going to read it. It's like such a waste of time to me because it just looks so aesthetically gross, and I know the rest of it's going to be bad too. Am I sad? I sound sad. Oh, I don't think so. Was I talking about sad shit? Maybe once I get on like the topic of discussing not being able to eat lots of sugar, maybe that's what makes me sad. Eat whatever you want, but you move around. Yeah, activity. Any way you can enhance your constant activity is important. Bro science is funny. Will MDE ever die, Joel? No, never die. He attempted to blow it off as he had when I had mentioned my concerns in the past. But this time something deep inside was stirred up, and he told me the tale of the palm reader. When he was done telling it, he promised me from that day on that he'd never go back out on a job, no matter the customer. He also promised to take my and my mom's concerns. He also promised to take my mom's and my concerns more seriously now. I could sense that were some incidents in his past... Wait, what? I could sense that there were some incidents in his past that helped strengthen his resolve to do this, but he kept those to himself, and I didn't pry. I was just happy to know he was going to be more mindful of his fears and feelings, that I wasn't crazy thinking I had some form of ESP or whatever you choose to call it. The weird looks Mom used to get on her face sometimes right before something bad would happen made much more sense now. It also explains why Dad always said I take after Mom. Not soon after, maybe 5 years later. 5 years later? 5 years later. Holy shite. Not soon after, maybe 5 years later, Dad sold the business to Mike's son and retired. He and Mom bought one of those massive RVs and have toured America for the last 12 years or so. Once or twice a month, we talk with one another over the phone, and my mom admitted to me during one of those discussions that she hadn't had a single bad feeling about Dad in the 16 years since the accident. I didn't have to tell her it was the same for me, as she already knew. It's just another aspect of the connection the three of us have shared all these years. You know what was weird was, or would suck, is I remember hearing somebody like their family member or daughter or something like that works on cruise boats as doing like a traveling show, and they worked on this cruise boat, and then the cruise boat got docked and is like stuck for a long ass time because of the coronavirus shit, and it's just like that would blow so bad. Granted, some cruise ships are like big malls you can live on, but what a weird turn of events where you're just like, oh, I'm fucking screwed here. Do I speak any other languages? I don't. I took German in high school and stuff, but what the fuck? It was funny though, because that reminds me of The Office too, where Michael's trying to learn Spanish and stuff, and then Dwight's like, I have it on good authority that in 20 years we'll all be speaking Pennsylvanian Dutch or like German or something. He's like that, or some dialect of Chinese. That was pretty good. So is The Office not on Netflix anymore? Is it just on NBC's like streaming bullshit? Okay, so that was story... What story was that? Oh, fuck. That was story 4. So this is story 5. Se habla español. My God. Alright, that was awesome. Let's breed. Corona sucks. Yeah, I don't know. Sick of talking about it. Just ready for this shit to be over. I'm ready for everybody to, like, quit being at each other's throats. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, everyone's stir crazy, but then everyone else is, like, placing blame on each other. I'm just like, this... I don't even think we have enough information to hate each other. You know what I mean? It's just, like, this constant state of confusion. And I feel like it's just proven to me that we're all just, like, confused simian apes, like, kept inside of cages. Oh, you took German 1 year into university, or is that varsity? He was stuck in Hong Kong. That would suck. Let's breed. Yeah, that's my Pornhub channel. I'll probably be speaking some form of Chinese. I had an art teacher say that the language we should learn is Chinese, and I believe he was right. I wonder why. Maybe we should learn English. Joel, join Chatterbait as Let's Breed. I don't know, what is Chatterbait? You just, like, jerk off on camera or some weird shit? Please say something in German. Here, type something in German and I'll say it, Cassia. I'll do my best. Hola, ¿cómo está? Sarah's from Germany. Oh, we got 2 Germans in the chat. Ivana speaks German. That's cool. Everybody knows Joyman. Joyman. And we have a Las Vegian. We need to get more listeners, especially with 600K. Yeah, I don't really know how YouTube's bullshit works. Like, you would think with 600K followers that there would be, like, I don't know, 10,000 people here or something like that. I'm not saying that there needs to be, but Jesus Christ, you'd think, like, it would alert a degree of, a substantially larger degree of people, but I guess people don't really use YouTube for... People don't really use YouTube for streams, I suppose. Stop being gay. Alright. Ich bin auch aus Deutschland. Ich bin auch aus Deutschland. The Shining Ones with the 10 says, best channel on YouTube. I fall asleep your stories most nights. Thank you, Shining One. Ich nicht sprechen. ¿Cómo te llamas? Alright, yeah, well, I guess I can kind of emulate the Spanish a little bit, but ¿Dónde está? I think, I don't know, Spanish is more fun to speak because it sounds more romantic. German is, it's, you know, it's fine, but it sounds so harsh. It's very barbaric, you know, because not barbaric in a bad sense, but barbaric in the sense that it's just like, it's like a rough language. It's like a very masculine language, you know. Deutschlander, de Hunde. What does the one guy say in the beginning of German line beginning of, what the hell is that called? German is angry. Heimen Ven from Norway. Oh, nice. The beginning of Gladiator. Do you guys remember that? That's like one of my favorite lines in Gladiator when they're trying. Oh yeah. Ihr seid verfluchte Hunde. Oh yeah. You are cursed dogs. It's just like such a funny line. Like, Ihr seid verfluchte Hunde. And then I think he like throws like a severed head or something like that. This is badass. Just got here. Did you miss anything? You have missed, unfortunately, 4 stories, but we got 3 more to go, so we're a little over halfway. That's funny. All right, we're gonna cruise right along here. Yeah, it's so funny. When I was still young, maybe 6 or 7, my folks got the great idea of converting our garage into a family game room. This was in the 80s. The idea of the family game room was really becoming popular, mostly because of the rise of arcades and the availability of shit. mostly because of the rise of arcades and the availability of arcade games and consoles like the Atari 2600 to the consumer market. It was truly an amazing time to be a kid. Although my parents often used the garage to store things, my dad grew tired of being unable to watch TV because my brother and I were always using it to play games. He had seen a conversion a neighbor had done and decided this would be the best way to get his television back. First, he traveled to the local hardware store and purchased a steel shed to make up for the storage space he'd be losing. Along with a six-pack of Miller High Life, he spent a few days putting it up in our backyard. He seemed pleased with his work, despite it falling in on... Fuck. He seemed pleased with his work. Maya says, with 3 says, I'm gonna get going. Much love. Thank you, Maya. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your donations. Appreciate it. I always appreciate the love. Hope you have a good night. Adios. Adios. He seemed pleased with his work, despite it falling. I don't know why I keep thinking. I see the 2 L's and I think it says failing, but then it's not. God damn it. He seemed pleased with his work, despite it falling in on itself within a year. His next steps was to find a company able to do the conversion for a fair price. He called every company in the phone book, but they wanted more than he wanted to pay. After asking around, a friend of his recommended a group of guys who had remodeled his kitchen for dirt cheap. Since my dad was a first-class cheapskate, these were the guys for him. They were contacted, and after a lot of haggling, Dad hired them for the job. Dad was in such a hurry to regain control of the TV that he couldn't wait until the spring to start the renovation. As a result, the guys had to use space heaters in order to be comfortable working in the Kansas winter. For the start, these guys were nothing but trouble. When they did show up to the house, they did very little, and often called it a day by 3 p.m. My dad had to complain several times. Once or twice, he even had to make them redo some piece of shoddy work. If I remember right, my mother tried to get him to fire the guys and hire a new company, but regardless of all the headaches, Dad was a miser. A miser? Is that what it is? It says a miser to the bone. Miser.
Miser.
A person who hoards wealth and spends as little money as possible. That's funny. If I remember right, my mother tried to get him to fire the guys and hire a new company, but regardless of all the headaches, Dad was a miser to the bone. Eventually he would be forced to get a new set of contractors. However, this was only because a near-deadly disaster was forcing him to. One day, Billy, my little brother, and I would be put to bed just like any other evening. At some point in the middle of the night, my mother would shake me awake. She was yelling and had a very panicked look on her face. I slowly started to rise when I began to smell smoke. Mother was next door yelling at my brother. It wasn't long before the smoke caused me to start choking and coughing. I remember I was putting on my robe when my mother came running back into my room, carrying Billy on her shoulder. I don't think he was even awake yet. She pushed me out of my room and ran down the hall towards the front door. My dad was standing in the foyer. He must have been waiting for us. The house had filled with a thick black smoke by then, but I couldn't see any fire. This changed once we all made it out to the front lawn. I stood with the rest of them watching the flames engulfing the house and illuminating the neighborhood. Fire trucks arrived a minute later, and we all got checked out by the paramedics. They fought the fire for over an hour, but the house was already done for. We would be living in a motel for the next 6 months or more. After a week after the fire, Dad got the report that stated it had been started by a faulty space heater in the garage. I can only imagine how furious he was to read this. This still didn't stop him from wanting to hire the yahoos back to rebuild the whole house. My mother put her foot down at this point, though. When she threatened to take Billy and I and move in with her parents, Dad folded and hired a very reputable company to do the job. I'm suspicious he only chose them because he wasn't paying for it. The check from the insurance company did. He probably would have found another group of cowboy builders to do the job and kept the extra money, but I don't think he thought of that. I love the man, but Jesus. The work was completed rather quickly. My parents chose to have the new house rebuilt in almost the exact same design as the original. The one major difference was the construction of a large game room at the back. The family would spend the majority of our next 10 years in there, even Dad. The garage was put back to work storing things, and the shed left to collapse. It's still there, a big pile of rusty steel, all these years later. That would be terrifying to go through a fire. I don't even know how I'd react. Be like, oh fuck, jump out the window, dude, shit, oh fuck, I forgot to wake up Charlie. Oh fuck, where's Pradeep? Ah. Have you guys ever been through a fire? Because that would be terrifying. Okay, story 6. Grab Pradeep first. Yeah, I would have to. I mean, he would be an idiot and probably hide in some place that I'd be like, have no idea where he is. I'm just like, oh my god, he's in some like crawl space. You accidentally set a napkin on fire and freak myself out. You better grab Pradeep. Yeah, I definitely would. But it would just be like, where the fuck is Pradeep? Where the fuck? Okay, let's kick off this next story. Michael Jackson set his hair on fire. Yeah, isn't that like how it all went downhill? Like, set his hair on fire during a Pepsi commercial or something. And then hair on fire during a Pepsi commercial, and then he ended up on like, you know, pain medication for it, but then the doctor like continued to give him like too much pain medication or prescribed a lot, and then his life just kind of went downhill from there or something. I don't quite remember. Okay, let's do this thing. I hadn't been working for myself very long when I got a call to rewire a small house by the new owner. She expressed a fear to me that the old, outdated wiring could be a fire hazard, and I agreed. This homeowner just happened to be a young and beautiful woman, not to mention newly single one. Despite being very attracted to her, I kept things professional between us. The large amount of work I had to do meant I had to return to the home every day for about a week. Much of the time I was present in the house, we were in separate rooms and only spoke 2 or 3 times in the entire 5 days. Nothing untoward ever. Untoward? What the fuck word is that? Untoward?
Untoward.
Unexpected and inappropriate or inconvenient. Alright. It's like a very posh word. Nothing untoward ever took place. Nothing untoward ever took place. I knew this. She knew this. I only wish her ex would have known this. Friday morning arrived, and I only had a few small things to finish. The homeowner, Crystal, had paid me the day before. My plan was to wrap up the job and move on. I'll be honest, I had plans to contact her in the month or 2 and ask her out, but for now, I had one foot out the door. When I first heard the loud noises upstairs, I was in the basement cleaning up my work area. Without thinking, I ran upstairs to see what had caused it. Unfortunately, I turned the kerner. What is wrong? Why do I sometimes read shit in fucking kerner? Like a weird accent. Like, where does it come from? Where does it go? Where does it come from, Cotton Eye Joe? Don't you dare using the British accent on me. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh Lord. When I first heard the loud noises upstairs, I was in the basement cleaning up my work area. Without thinking, I ran upstairs to see what had caused it. Unfortunately for me, I turned the corner just in time to come eye to eye with a stranger with a gun. I froze, and he used that opportunity to move closer. Now he was so close I could smell the oil in the gun. It was aimed directly at my face. Crystal ran up behind me and screamed when she saw the gunman. I closed my eyes tight, expecting him to blow my brains out when she did this. Instead, I hear him begin yelling at her, and in return, she began screaming his name and telling him to get out. It was obvious now that they had known each other. I wasn't sure if this was good or bad for me, but I stayed right where I was. The yelling soon stopped, and he told me to step back, slowly into the living room behind me. Crystal, who had been behind me all this time, joined me. We were then ordered to sit on the couch and say nothing. This is when he began calling me a home-wrecking a-hole. This confused me until he followed up by asking how long I'd been banging Crystal. We both denied this, but were quickly told to shut up. He said there was no reason to deny it. He'd been watching the house all week, and he knew I'd been over every day. I was boiling over, wanting to explain while I was there, but I was afraid of being shot. Crystal asked him if she could explain the situation, and he agreed. To begin, she introduced him to me. He was Victor, her ex-husband. Victor's face tensed up when she said this, but she continued. Then she introduced me to Victor by explaining I was an electrician who she had hired to redo the wiring. Her and I had no personal relationship whatsoever. He interjected himself into the conversation and said that was BS because I didn't have any signs on my truck. Sensing it may be my turn to speak, I countered his claim by explaining I was new in business for myself, and I hadn't had the spare cash to have the signs made. But if he looked in the basement, he'd see my tool belt and supplies in a pile. Victor had a look of doubt on his face, but his body language betrayed his inner curiosity. I said nothing else, allowing the possibility to turn around in his mind. What seemed like a good idea at first began to worry me. He could take us down there and shoot us and get away, while the neighbors would be none the wiser. To this day, I'm not sure how, but Crystal must have read my mind. When Victor agreed and waved us to the door, we did what we were told. In my head, I'm crapping myself this whole time, thinking I was about to die. Unknown to me, Crystal had a plan for me to get away. I can only assume she was confident Victor wouldn't shoot her. So as we approached the door to the stairs, he stood there with a pistol locked on me and waved me by. I complied, and Crystal followed. However, instead of going down, she jumped on Victor as she passed him. He had his body facing down the stairs and was watching me, so she nailed him square on his side, and they fell to the floor. Crystal wasn't a particularly large girl, and Victor was about average size for a man, but somehow she tackled him like a football player 3 times her size. I just happened to be looking back when she did this. As soon as they hit the ground, she began yelling for me to run while hitting and slapping him over and over. Victor was still holding the gun in his hand, but he was holding both hands up to protect his face from her elbows. He didn't look like he was about to shoot, so I ran back up the 2 stairs and out of the house. And you can call me a coward all you want, but I wager you probably do the same. The door had been broken off the hinges when Victor forced himself in, so I ran straight out and across the street to the neighbor's house and started banging on the door. The homeowner, an older gentleman, threw it open and began yelling. Whoops. I made it pretty far there without fucking up, but definitely would soil yourself at gunpoint. Yeah, that would be. I saw this one fucking video earlier. It was nuts. It was in some sort of machine shop. And this huge, I don't even know, lift was hoisting up these giant, like, metal beams that were, like, looked like they created skyscrapers. They were so big. And some dude is just, like, he's, like, following it as it's being transferred through the air, like, underneath it, but with his stupid, like, white hard hat on, which, presumably means he's a manager or something, or a foreman. And he's just, like, going underneath it, like, looking at it. I don't know why the fuck he's following it. And then as soon as he takes his eyes off of it and then, like, walk back to talk to his friend, it just fucking falls. But, like, just barely misses him, just barely misses him. And then he's just standing there looking at it. And then he looks at his friend and looks at it. And I can only imagine the level of, like, diarrhea that would be coming out of my butt in that scenario, because that looks fucking terrifying. It's just, like, so weird. Like, in an instant, you could have been crushed by a giant fucking Final Destination beam. The homeowner, an older gentleman, threw it open and I began yelling about a man with a gun before he could say a word. He opened the screen right away and let me in, closing the door behind him. The phone was on the wall next to us and he grabbed it off the hook and handed it to me. I dialed as fast as I could and gave the operator the facts. I answered her questions and waited for the sound of gunshots, but instead heard the muffled screams of Crystal outside. She'd gotten away somehow and was running from door to door yelling for help. When I looked out the window for her, I saw a woman and a man run out of one of the nearby houses and bring her in. Confident she was now safe, I began begging the operator to get the cops on scene before Victor could escape. She assured me that they were close. Sure enough, 2 cars, soon followed by 2 more, pulled up outside the house and the cops rushed inside. I watched with bated breath for them to come out. I had no idea if Victor was still inside, but thankfully, a minute or 2 later, they came out with him in handcuffs. This is when I finally came out and introduced myself as the caller and told them what had occurred. Crystal and the couple came out and joined us not long after. I looked over and asked her if she was okay. She said yes, but I could see a bleeding cut on the webbing of her left hand. It wasn't until a few hours later that she told me she had been fighting him for the gun and he must have pulled the trigger, but fortunately for her, she had grabbed it high up and the hammer came down on the webbing of her hand, preventing it from firing. At some point, she clawed at his eyes and he dropped it. This was when she made a break for it, hoping she wasn't going to be shot in the back as she ran away. The police told us while the paramedics were checking us out that Victor was just sitting on the floor crying when they came in. He didn't fight or argue as they handcuffed him and loaded him into the car. They bandaged up Crystal's hand and after 2 hours took off. I volunteered to repair her door as much as possible until it could be replaced, and the couple that had helped her invited her to stay with them for the night. She accepted. On the way to my truck, I thanked the neighbor once again for helping us and gave him my card. I told him to call me anytime he needed any electrical work done, and it would all be done on the house. It was the least I could do. Crystal and I wouldn't see each other again until the trial. I showed up to testify and stayed around to watch her testimony. It carried on for another week until the jury came back with a guilty verdict. A few months later, Victor was given a 10-year sentence agreed upon by the DA and ultimately ended up doing 7 and some change. I don't hold any ill will against him after all these years. I can only pray he feels the same and has bettered himself. The trial was the last time I'd seen Crystal and I haven't spoken to her since. As you can imagine, it didn't feel right to ask her out after all that happened. I hope she's doing okay now and knows how thankful I really am for risking her life to save mine. That was far more than I would expect a person to do for someone they barely knew. And if you're wondering, yes, I did get a call from that neighbor and I did do some work for him for free and clear. Whoops. What? I do some work for him free and clear. Free and clear, what does that mean? When this guy breaks serious narrator mode, it gives me life. That's funny, yeah. It's like you're suddenly being drawn back into reality. What does this mean? Free and clear. I'll just say work for free, whatever. And if you're wondering, yes, I did get a call from that neighbor, and I did do some work for him for free. And I will again. He didn't have to help me either. In these days and times, you never know if that person asking for help outside your door is really in danger or just trying to bait you. It's a sad thing to say, but a fact, nonetheless. Clear of charge. Okay. I just figured you only need to say free, you know what I mean, to convey that message. Joel made slurping sounds. Joel made slurping sounds. That should be a tweet. Local Let's Reader made slurping sounds on his stream. People heard slurping sounds between their jeans. Joel should do an ASMR horror story reading soon. Yeah, I do have an ASMR channel. It's only... And, you know, one of the things that I do on there is kind of horror related because it's kind of related to the game The Forest because I was playing that when it came out. It was like a role play. Kind of fucking weird. Everything I did on that channel was fucking weird. But, I don't know. It was fun, I guess. I just don't have time for it, you know. Just always focusing on this channel and stuff. But if you want to find that, it's called Let's Read ASMR. It might pop up. And it should be on the side panel of my normal page. Yes, sir, I do. This homie's voice is just... Joel speak Finnish. I don't even know. Finnish and is like Finland is one of those countries that I don't think I've ever... I haven't thought of Finland since like the Olympics. And now, coming out of Finland, Jorgensen McFlorgenstern. Standing at a height of 6'9", 2,000 pounds. You know, that would be kind of sick. Because you always see like morbidly obese people like who are like average height. But I want to see a fucking like massively obese like giant person, you know, like they're 7 feet tall and, you know, or like say they're 6'9" and they're like a world's strongest man, you know, and they're like 300 pounds. But I want to see a world's strongest man fucking suddenly become like morbidly obese, you know, after his career is done. You know what I mean? Just to like, because he's already got the muscle base, and then now he's just fucking huge. So all of a sudden he's like a literally functioning Sasquatch. You know what I mean? That would be sick. Okay. 2,000 pounds. Imagine, bro. Dude. Okay, wait. Imagine 3,000 pounds, bro. Dude. Bro, dude. Dude, bro. Bro, dude. Dude, bro. They should be superheroes. Bro, dude, and dude, bro. Fucking fighting crime at frat parties. Bro, dude, and dude, bro. Here to drink away all your problems. Your older brother is 6'8" and 400 plus. That's cool. I mean, it's obviously not healthy, but that's cool. I wonder if he's strong. I wonder if he's literally strong as a small horse. All right, guys. We are moving on to the last story. Number 7. 6'9", approximately 300 pounds. Look up Ed Kemper. All right, let me do that real quick. Ed Kemper. Huh. The serial killer. Oh, dude. That would be terrifying. Imagine being killed by someone that big. Oh my god. There's a picture of some like hot model girl wearing an Ed Kemper t-shirt. What the fuck? .6'9" is tall as fuck. It's like if you're that tall, it's like you almost have to. You would hope that you participate in some sort of sport. There was actually a guy. It was really sad story. But like at my hospital that I worked at, he was a secretary, but he was 6'9". Like he was a 6'9" secretary, and such an awesome guy, great sense of humor. He was just a fucking giant, and I think I told this story before, but basically I went to a local like burger place that had opened up and saw him there, and he was there with his buddies, and it looked like they were a little bit tuned up, just like hanging out and stuff. And he was, you know, he came over and shook my hand, said hi. It was nice, you know. I was like, this guy's fucking cool. And then, dude, I kid you not, the next time I was at work, they told me he fucking died of a heart attack, and I was just like, god damn it, that's so weird. You know, you like shake the hand of someone that literally dies the next day. Just like so strange. Hannah, you're 5'9.5". That's pretty tall for a girl, though. That might as well be 6'9" for girl height. This is something that happened long before I was born, but still gives me chills every time I hear it. To provide a bit of context, my grandpa Martin had just returned from fighting in the Korean War. After all the horrors he experienced, he was ready to start a family and put it all behind him. He and Granny Martin took all the money they'd been saving for Grandpa's pay and bought a 2-bedroom house a few blocks from the elementary. Fuck. Yeah, my handshakes are deadly. Jesus. Don't ever shake my hand or you will die tonight. It's like I have a Death Note hand. He was a good guy. So weird. Just like he was young too. Oh yeah, Molly, you're a giant. Oh dude, Molly, imagine someone being 2 feet taller. I can't even imagine that. 2 feet doesn't sound like a lot, but it's like when it comes to height, that's just like so different, you know? Because usually like their bodies are substantially massive, more massive than you as well. He and Granny Martin took all the money they'd been... He and Granny Martin took all the money they'd been saving for Grandpa's pay and bought a 2-bedroom house a few blocks from elementary school. The World War I era house had its share of problems, but none were as severe as the plumbing. Roots from the many oak trees crisis crossed the road, busting and blocking up the ancient pipes. Now, Grandpa was a near master when it came to working with his hands, but he had neither the knowledge nor the time to do all the labor it would take to resolve the problem. It just happened that Granny Martin had plumbers on her side of the family. Well respected. Dude, my brain is shutting down, dude. The fuck's wrong with it? Ridiculous. Is 6'4" enough for a 15-year-old? Enough? What do you mean? That's fucking giant for a 15-year-old. But you need more. You need more height. So wear some big-ass Timberland boots. So you can dunk on people. It would be cool to be tall. I mean, people just naturally, I think, feel inclined towards tall people because they make them, I don't know, feel safer and warm. He feels like my dad or my older brother. He's so tall. He will protect me from the Martians and the mole people. It just happened that Granny Martin had plumbers on her side of the family. Very well respected ones, in fact. Unfortunately for them, Grandpa had differences with them in the past, and he was determined not to put any of his own money in their pockets. All through the spring and early summer of '55, Grandpa called plumbers one by one, but none would take on a job so large for what he had wanted to pay. He was very near to attempting it all himself when Granny confessed she had went to her family behind his back and they had agreed to do the job for his price, but only as a favor to her. She would mention to me later how she knew Grandpa would be furious at what she'd done, but the state of the pipes was driving them both crazy. He certainly was angry at hearing this, but Granny reminded him no one else was volunteering to take it on, and he had to swallow his pride and go along with it. The first week in July, Granny's uncle, his son, and their men showed up at the house to start the work. I won't bore you with the details on how the argument started, but I will say it escalated quickly. Before I get into the specifics of what occurred, I want to warn you, what you are about to hear is graphic and may upset those who have been victims or witnesses to violence in their past. You've been warned. I don't really... God, how do I fuck that up? Kitty, what are you doing? What are you doing? He's so funny. He just comes over and like plops his fat body right near my feet and says, "Could you please stand on me?" What the fuck? Grandpa, that's, been warned. Okay. I don't want to repeat what was said, but suffice to say it was something men usually won't let go. especially men of that time. Grandpa took exception with what the nephew said and decked him. The nephew, knowing he was outmatched, chose to back off. However, his father was furious at seeing his son get his butt kicked and attacked Grandpa with a pocket knife. Grandpa had his back turned when the attack began and took one stab to the back. He quickly turned around to defend himself but got 2 more stabs to the midsection before the knife blade thankfully snapped off. Unfortunately, Granny's uncle wasn't done. He picked up a nearby pipe wrench and smashed Grandpa across the jaw, then the head several times. If he thought Grandpa was going down, he was wrong. After all, the man had been bayoneted twice and shot once but didn't die. Him being angry just made him more dangerous. Grandpa was holding himself up on one knee and noticed a nearby length of pipe that the plumbers had been using and picked it up. Grandpa's uncle had stopped the attack for a moment, but when he saw Grandpa rise... Granny's uncle. Granny's uncle had stopped the attack for a moment, but when he saw Grandpa rise back to his feet, he swung again. This time, Grandpa blocked his arm and connected with his own weapon across his attacker's head. Granny described the noise as the pipe made contact like a hammer smashing a watermelon. Her uncle remained on his feet and tried to renew his attack, but Grandpa smashed him twice more across the head and he dropped to the ground, never to rise again. Everyone present was understandably upset, but the violence was over for the day. Grandpa would lose consciousness just minutes later. Even when he did regain his wits, the next day he was unable to speak to the police because of his wired jaw. The knife wounds turned out to be not that serious. The broken jaw was not the worst of his injuries, however. Doctors were forced to put a plate in his head to replace the pieces of skull lost when he was struck there. The district attorney wanted to make an example of him, so, upon release from the hospital, the cops were there to arrest him. The most serious charges were felony assault and second-degree murder. He was miraculously released on bail only because he was the family's only source of income. I imagine in a large town or city, he would have to spend the next year or more in the county jail. In some ways, it was a more civilized time. The trial did finally happen, and because witnesses testified on his behalf, the jury decided Grandpa was acting in self-defense and found him not guilty. Granny Martin's support for her husband would ensure a rift would remain between her and the rest of her family until just recently. The horrible state of their home's plumbing, which started all this mess in the first place, was resolved when they sold it to another young couple. The new buyers were all aware of the problem and had hired a company from out of town to finish the work. They must have done a good job. I believe the couple still lives there to this day. Grandpa and Granny stayed in an apartment a few years before Mom was born, and they purchased a house in the same neighborhood as before. Grandpa would go on to live another 55 years without even getting as much as a cold. In the end, it was a stroke in his sleep that took him. Granny Martin is still alive and kicking at the age of 80. I was proud to know this man, but I don't have to agree with how he handled the situation to love him. Granny and often... Fuck. This fucking cat, dude, he's just like... Just endless attention. I just need to be pet constantly. I'm the baby. I'm the baby. Don't you understand? After 6 years, I'm still a fucking baby. Okay, so, properly convey the... I try to portray each... What am I... Oh. Granny and I often reminisce about him, and recently while doing so, I had her recount the incident to me, so I could write it down and share it with all you listeners. I hope the way I wrote it properly conveys the feelings of unease I feel every time I hear it. I try to portray each man without making either out to be the good guy. Even Grandpa would probably acknowledge that he could have handled things better in the beginning. If any moral could be taken away from this story, I'd think it would be that we should try to talk through our problems before we resort to violence, and if we do so, I think the world would be better for it. Don't you? He's just rolling around. Rolling around at the speed of cat. presenting my belly so I can bite you when you pet it. Just kidding. Pradeep actually loves belly rubs, which is really good about him. He's just like a good cat. Cinnamon! Down, Cinnamon, down! Cinnamon! Cinnamon! Down! Cinnamon! 2 cats and 7 dogs. 7 fucking dogs. Holy shit, that's crazy. Your house must be either massive or insane in the membrane. Alexandria Rhea with a 2 says kiss. Kissy pissy. Kissy fucking pissy. Okay, guys, we have reached the end of a stream. Thank you guys for those who came to the AMA. Everybody who's here now for this stream. I loves ya. But I need you right now to think of something funny to say at the end of this video. Something hilarious. Slurp kisses. Now Pradeep is biting my feet. I'm just gonna drag him across the floor. It's just like so funny when cats like need attention so bad they get violent. I need you to look at me, dude. Okay, say bye, bitches. Thanks so much, friends, and remember, bye, bitches. Hey, friends, thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell to be alerted of all future narrations. If you got a story, be sure to submit them to my subreddit, r/Let's Read Official, and give and receive feedback from the community, and maybe even hear your story featured on the next video. And join my Discord to interact with me and other listeners directly. And if you want to support me even more, grab early access to all future narrations for just $1 a month on Patreon, and maybe even pick up some Let's Read merch on Spreadshirt. And check out the Let's Read podcast, where you can hear all these stories in long compilation form and save huge on data, located anywhere you listen to podcasts. Links in the bio. Thanks so much, friends, and remember. Does your cat love bite you when he gets too... He does. It's cute, you know? And if I, like, play too much into it, he'll get harder, but anytime that I stop, he stops. Like, he's not... Like, there's nothing about him that's, like, malicious ever. He's just a boy. He's just a boy. Cashy, holy hell. One just on the outskirts with the 21 Canadian maple syrup doll hair says, I missed the AMA, but I'm glad I caught some of this. Love you, Let's Read. Thank you, Cashy. Love you too. I hope you're well. If you guys do want to watch the AMA again, if you know how to find playlists on YouTube on my channel, go to playlists and then go to the streams playlist. And yeah, it should be one, you know, it's organized by like newest to oldest, so it should be the top one. It should say like AMA or whatever. And then this stream also will be available for this stream will also be available in there. Basically, I make the video unlisted, but I put it in a playlist so you can only find it there. Ivana, you're welcome. I'm glad I got to interact with people that are otherwise would be missing. Or not missing, but just unable to catch a stream. Face reveal. Yeah, if you want to see my face, you can go to the Discord and go to the selfies channel on there, and you can post your selfie too if you want, but click on the pinned messages, and I got quite a few pictures of me pinned at the top, and some videos too. Some videos. And yeah, I think I have pictures of Pradeep there too, so I'm holding him now. I wonder if he'll purr. I wonder if he'll purr for me. Purr for me, Daddy. If I get a cat, I want to name him Daddy. Or another cat, I want to name him Daddy. Or Big Chungus. I think Big Chungus would be a really funny name for a cat. Big Chungy. Big Chungy. The negative pick, yeah, that's really funny. I feel like I was way funnier when I was younger. Like shit, I don't know. Maybe it's because I was just around a lot more people. But I feel like when you're younger, you just have like more opportunities to say some like cracked out shit. I don't remember what the tennis ball sound is, to be honest, but Alex with the 2 says, remember tennis ball sound. Yeah, fuck it, let's do it. Thanks so much, friends, and remember. That was the sound a tennis ball makes. From space. My English accent is awesome, thanks. Well, my friends, as I said, this audio will come out first on Patreon. That's only $1 a month on there. Also, I'll be, once in a while, I'm chilling in the Discord, but you should join the Discord anyways, if you want to meet other cool people, you know how it goes on. Always need more internet friends, which maybe might even turn into real life encounters. Big chungy. Yeah. And otherwise, this video will come out tomorrow. And I don't even have to look at the clock because it's definitely not past midnight. But it's interesting stopping a stream whenever, like, before it even normally starts. Like, I normally don't even start a stream till like 2 hours from now, but we're already done, so that's kind of fun. So I got all this time for activities. Oh my god. Caroline Grace says, Let's read, are you a single mom? I'm not a single mom. I am single Pringle boy. You love me, Uncle Joel. Thanks. Thanks, step niece Lila. But yeah, I love you guys. Yeah, new video will be out 7 p.m. same time. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Twitter. Instagram is letsread.official. Twitter is letsreadcreepy. Just to keep updated whenever I stream. Sometimes YouTube doesn't kind of keep you informed on when shit's happening. So got to do it through other means. Also, the Discord will give updates on when shit's happening as well. Either way, it's happening. Send in your stories. I need as much content as I can get lately with everybody being stuck indoors and not having scary things happen to them. So, you know what to do. All right. I loves ya, and I need more ofs ya.